Hey, Peter, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate your time this afternoon. I'm really excited for this conversation because you are a requested guest for public speaking and just trying to get your message across, something that us millennials sometimes have a little bit of fear for, sometimes that we struggle because we're into technology a lot. We're into asynchronous communication. We've talked about that a couple of times in different episodes, and getting out there in front of people where you actually see them and they get to interact, they see your nervousness a little bit, that can be a little intense, I'd rather say, for some of our members that we listen to. So I'm curious to see some of the tips and tricks that you learned in your experience public speaking, what, hundreds of thousands of people in front of?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'll share some things that hopefully help them.
That's the goal. Yeah. So where did you start your public speaking journey?
My public speaking started when I got out of school and went to work for one of the world's largest companies, one of the world's most well-known companies. And I had avoided public speaking most of my life, as most of us do, but I had other reasons to do it. I did not want to communicate with people. However, when I got this position in this corporation, I realized I had to speak to people, and not only speak to people, I had to present in front of people.
Mhm.
So I tried to do it on my own, and that went slow and not all that great. And then I went and got help from group coaching and then private coaching, and that made all the difference in my career.
Okay. And is the group coaching similar to like Toastmasters today?
It was Dale Carnegie.
Oh, Dale Carnegie. Okay.
It was
Awesome.
Dale Carnegie. And then
Yeah.
after that, though, I went and got private training elsewhere that was even uh, another level up.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, they were
So
both fantastic.
you mentioned that you started out, you didn't like to talk to people, you kind of wanted to be working alone and stuff like that. Was that because of a certain background growing up, or is it just because you're introverted? How did that come across, that type of mindset?
Well, I'm introverted and shy on both of those still. But growing up, I had a lisp and a stutter. And
Mm,
when you're 9, 10 years old and you have a lisp and a stutter, you learn to do two things very well. One is keep your mouth shut, and the other is to become fairly proficient in sports, because if you were good in sports, you didn't get picked on.
mhm.
And those are the two things I grew up doing. And so between that lisp and stutter, the last thing I wanted to do was communicate with people.
Right. I mean, talking to you now, obviously, and even before we started recording, the lisp is gone, the stutter's been gone. Is that something you grew out of, or is that something that the coaching has kind of helped you overcome?
A little of both, but if you listen intently, at one point or another, you hear both. They're still there. I haven't grown out of them completely. And depending what I'm speaking about, if I'm speaking about business, music, sports, things like that, I will seldom stutter. If I start speaking about personal things, it will start creeping in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the people who stutter profusely and then when they sing, they have no stutter whatsoever, start speaking again and they have it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like a physical reaction, which brings me to a question that one of our members have asked for, one of our audience members. His name is Shahid. And again, guys, if you ever want to ask a guest or myself any of these questions, just feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at FinanceZilla or email me at financezilla@gmail.com. But he was asking, like, even if you overcome the mental hurdle and the fear of public speaking, right? Sometimes your body, your physical reaction kind of gives way. You start getting the sweaty palms, you get a little bit of nervousness, your kind of throat chokes up, you go and you have to swallow a little bit. So it's a little bit harder to get over that physical overcomings or struggles when you're actually going to start a public speech. And for you, obviously, with the lisp and the stutter, as well as those other aspects, how do you get over that from a
You don't.
physical standpoint?
You simply don't. You learn to manage it. You don't get over it. I believe in what Mark Twain said 100 and however many years ago, that there are two types of speakers, one who's nervous and the other who's a liar. We're all nervous. You name the speaker, they'll admit to being nervous. And if not nervous about physically getting up there and getting in front of people, then that they're going to do well or whatever it might be, but their nerves creep in. And that's a good thing. You don't want to go out there so blasé that you're not connecting with people. My thought though, Sammy, is it's how we frame it. Think about it. When we get nervous about public speaking or anything else we get very nervous about, it's an adrenaline rush.
Right.
That's why those things happen. I can say these things to anybody in the world and they go, yep, that's what happens to me. Your palms get sweaty. Your blood pressure goes up. Your heart rate increases. All these things happen to everybody when they go to speak. Now, let's say you're going to do something you love that is not just walking across the street. Let's say it's jumping off the side of a cliff with a parachute, a glider. Then what's going to happen? Your hands are going to get sweaty. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure goes up. All the same things. So when our adrenaline rushes in, we can either tell ourselves, "Ooh, I'm afraid of this," or we can tell ourselves, "This is cool and I've got this. I can't wait to do this." It's all how we frame it.
So, and I totally agree, because I've done a little bit of presentations in corporate, and even now the podcast to an extent. You're meeting somebody for the first time, or you're having the conversation, and it's a little bit of nerves that first, I guess, introductory period. And then you kind of be like, okay, this is what you like to do. This is what you're doing. And you just go through with it.
Yeah.
But I do like the comparison point to skydiving or something that's an adrenaline seeking rush, because I did I did rock climbing up in Denver recently, and you're climbing up the side of a mountain, something I've never done, and I had the same exact feelings as hands were sweaty and stuff like that. I think you just have to push through and acknowledge it. If you reject it and say that, oh, that I shouldn't be feeling nervous, that works counterintuitively, and now you become even more nervous because you're aware and you become self-conscious about it.
I agree wholeheartedly. And think about your analogy there about rock climbing. If you were to continue and you got more competent at it, then your confidence increases. You never want it to increase so much that you don't care.
Right.
That's when accidents happen. But confidence comes from competence. So as someone becomes more effective, not just speaks more often, because we can do anything a lot and never become competent in it. But when you do become competent in any skill, your confidence in that skill rises.
Oh, agreed 100%. And I guess that brings me to the most important question: is how can we increase our skill at presenting or doing public speaking?
Get help. Get help, whether it's a coach like me, group coaching, Toastmasters. So you can go anywhere from Toastmasters, which doesn't charge anything, maybe a room fee when they meet in person, $10 a month, that type thing, all the way to paying coaches and the like. But get help, and they'll help you if you have the fear. They'll help you get over the fear, but they'll help you get more competent, and then your confidence increases. Truthfully, my clients will tell you that, yeah, I taught them how to speak more competently, being calm, confident, and gaining more credibility. But what they got out of it the most was an increase in that confidence. And that permeates many aspects of their lives, not just public speaking.
Agreed. I think if you're able to conduct a message, and you mention it a little bit on your coaching bio as well as your site, and obviously we'll plug that and have those links, but it's about how you're able to relate and bring a story or bring like a metaphor to pull people in. And that, I think, is something that it's repeated in all speaking engagement books type of thing and all the trainings, but how to actually do that when you feel maybe you don't have that type of engaging, or you don't live an interesting life enough to relate to something. How do you get over that? Not necessarily fear, but self-doubt and shortcoming in order to relate to an audience of 10,000 unique individuals?
You always have something in common. If you're there speaking to a group, I don't care if it's 10, 100, or 10,000, if you're there and you've been chosen to be the one to speak in front of them, you have something in common. You have to determine what that is, but you have something in common. What I do, and this is what I suggest to anybody, is if you're asked to speak at an event, ask the person who's hosting it, whoever contacted you, who's in the audience. What do you want them to walk away with? You have to understand what they need before you can even think about providing it to them. Once you do, well, maybe the ways to engage them are storytelling. Come up with a story that fits whatever you're trying to accomplish, the point you're making, what you want them to walk away with. use analogies, but you have to search for those. And here's the reason most people find it very difficult to do. People who don't like to speak in public will procrastinate. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I will procrastinate till the 11th hour, and then I'm going to jam everything together. It's not going to be all that good. I'm going to present it tomorrow and see, I know it wasn't good.
Right.
As opposed to starting a month or two out and working on it and working on it. And here's what happens. You can be in your car and the news can come on and they'll say something is happening with the wildfires in California. And just something might click and you go, oh my God, that's a great analogy for what I'm going to speak about on January 10th at this particular group. Now you can start to collect and corral stories for a particular presentation because it's forefront in your mind. If you wait, you miss those opportunities.
I like that approach. Yeah, definitely keeping a forefront outwards. But it seems like the best storytellers or best presenters have a kind of a loose structure. You don't want to over prepare and have like a verbatim speech that is very monotonous and rushed, because when you memorize the lines, if you will, it's going to just feel like you're on autopilot, not pausing and not using the crowd with you. How do you kind of find that balance between over preparing versus that 1 or 2 month preparation and no kind of bullet points, but you allow yourself to engage with everybody?
I don't know if you can over prepare. If you prepare correctly, I don't think you'll over prepare. No, you shouldn't memorize your presentation. You just shouldn't, especially if you're older. If you have a little more gray hair like me, then your mind will go searching for that particular phrase or that particular word, and you won't come up with it. And then you get lost because your mind goes, well, wait a minute, pause while I look for this word. Now, what seems like minutes to us is really only a few seconds before we find that word, but it really then gets into our head. So you don't want to memorize. You do not want to know the points you want to make. Here's my first point. Here's my second point. Here's my third point, and the like. What you do want to memorize is your opening and your conclusion. And here's why. Your conclusion is by far the most important part of your presentation. It's when everything comes together. And some people will say, well, it's the opening because that engages them. Well, yeah, that's true too, but think of a movie. You can have a very engaging opening in a movie, but if it has a lousy ending, you're not going to go back and watch that movie. Where a movie could have a softer opening, hopefully it doesn't, but it could, and then have a tremendous ending where it all comes together and you go, that was a fantastic movie. So the conclusion is the most important part. We're only talking a line or two. So memorize those. Once you come up with, this is how I want to end it, memorize that. And the reason you want to do that for the opening is twofold. One is the same thing. You want to be sure of what you're going to say. But when you're walking out on stage or in the front of the room or wherever it might be, your mind is going to be going a mile a minute. And your nerves will be lessened. You'll be able to control them more if you know, here are the first words I'm going to say. These 2 particular lines, these 3 lines, whatever. I have these down pat. And you hear a lot of people say, well, I'm really nervous at the beginning, but once I start speaking, we get into it. You alluded to that about the podcast, meeting someone new, start talking a little bit, and then you get into it. It's the same thing. I want to have these words. I'm sure of what I'm going to do so I can relax a little more. I can present those with power and connectivity and then get on with what I want to say. But the reason I said, I don't know if you can over prepare, if you prepare correctly, is think of a Broadway.
Peter, I lost you.
Because they change their lines little by little. That's not always exactly the same. But we hit a bump there.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. I got kicked out. I missed it when you started saying Broadway. I lost. I was trying to ping you, and then I got kicked out. I lost internet.
Okay.
I'm
Think
sorry
of
about
it.
that.
That's all right. Think about it as an actor, actress on Broadway. They know their lines by heart, and that gives them the ability to use those lines as they feel is appropriate in that moment. And they may or may not use the same words every night, but they mean the same thing. And that's what you want to do. Express what you need to express, but it doesn't have to be the same words every time.
I like that. Makes sense. The the thing about opening and conclusion, or opening and close, that you have to memorize, that I guess I struggle with a little bit, and selfishly I like to have the podcast so I can learn some things every episode, is how to hook somebody in. Is it an anecdote is better? Is there a tactical way that you want to use, like something about the topic, for example, market data, or something that would an info tip that would bring people in, or a call to action that resonates emotionally? What are tactically some things that you would like to do in those one or two lines in the opening, and the same question for the closing as well?
They can be similar, but what you want to do is obviously right from word one. You don't want to say in the opening, it's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank so and so for having me. That's boring. Think of a magazine. You never open a magazine to read an article and the author wrote at the top of the article, I'd like to thank ABC Publication for giving me the opportunity to write this for you.
Mhm.
Or I'd like to they don't start, they just get into it. It's a headline and they get into it. So you want to do the same thing. Now that might be a question. Question is a great way to engage people. Ask them a rhetorical question, give them time to think about it. Don't keep speaking right away. Give them a few seconds to think about it, and they will. And now they're engaged. It could be a story, or you could use those two together, which is my favorite way, asking a question and then saying, okay, well, you should have been there when, and tell the story. And again, it must be apropos and must align with the point you're making throughout your presentation. It could be vision. Envision this, imagine this, picture this, things like that. That engages the mind.
Mm.
And what we want to know as speakers, we want to know how to engage people, not only on the conscious level with our words and the like, but at the unconscious level. And that's what most of us forget about, is that unconscious level. Engaging the mind that way will also help with the unconscious level. And that's a great way to do it. Same thing with the ending. How do you want to end? Do you want to challenge them? I challenge you to do this for the next 30 days. Do you want to do vision again? Envision this, imagine this. All you have to do is ABC. It could be a story at that end as well. There are different tactics to end. I generally use the same ones, but when called for, I'll switch that up because that's the best thing for that audience at that time with that message.
Okay. And you make that decision before the presentation itself. It's not kind of an ad lib, depending on how the crowd is reacting, or depending on the certain presentation of how it's going, that you'll switch the conclusion.
No, that's a mistake. One of the things that'll happen to you both at the beginning and the end is your brain tries to protect you, or looks to protect you 6 times a second. Awake and asleep, 6 times a second, your brain is on guard. Its major function is to keep its host, you, alive. So what happens is, especially when with the adrenaline rush, is we'll be walking out to the front of the room or out on stage, and your brain will say to you, hey, you know that opening you've been rehearsing and you know by heart, and you know it's the right one for this occasion? And you answer your brain and say, yeah. It says, I've got a better one. Say this. And very seldom does that work. Very seldom. And it's the same thing with the conclusion. Unless you're extremely experienced, go with the conclusion you had prepared, because your brain will tell you, hey, this is a better conclusion. And guess what? It probably won't be. Go with what got you there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it really does, because our brain, again, is trying to protect us. So it's saying, hey, this is a better ending. If you're extremely experienced, maybe on the fly you can come up with a better ending. Most of the time, stick with what you did, what you prepared.
That's fair. And I've noticed, like, even when we're talking now, you use pauses quite effectively, right? When you're not necessarily stuttering for words or thinking of what to say next, but it's making sure that each sentence is coherent and to build out the response. And that's something that even I struggle with. A lot of people I know struggle with. They will either drag out a word like the or to try to find filler words for their brain to catch up. But if you do a 3 second pause, it's like you get a little bit scared and you're like, well, it's been minutes, like you said earlier, and it feels like what's going to happen next? I don't know where I'm going with this. You lose all train of thought. So where's that balance of removing those fluff words in as well as using pauses for yourself, even in regular speech now?
All those fillers, and I have one where I say and while my brain, like you said, is trying to catch up, and I'm trying to form the words the way I want them. But most of us use right, so,
Mhm.
all those. Those fillers are just us knowing internally that we're supposed to pause here. But our mouth wants to insert words because we don't like the silence. But as the saying goes, silence is golden. And here's why. I know what I'm going to say. You don't. So if I don't pause and let you internalize and process and digest what I just said, then it just keeps going. It would be like a movie where the action never stops. For 120 minutes, the action goes from minute 1 to minute 120, never stops for real dialogue, never stops to set up a scene. It would be overwhelming. We wouldn't keep up with it. We'd actually lose interest because it was so full. So because I know what I'm going to say and you don't, I have to give you time to process it. And Sammy, here's the thing. We all do it. We all do it so well. Yet when we get up to speak, we get nervous and we let our nerves get the best of us and we forget to pause. Here's what I mean. I have to believe, Sammy, when you have to tell a friend, a loved one, something extremely important, you don't say, hey, let me tell you this, it's extremely important. You really got to know, da, 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 da. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is this. No, we say, hey, Sammy, I've got something extremely important I got to tell you.
Be like,
And
what
we
is it?
pause and let Sammy lean in a little bit mentally and physically. What is it? Well, your dog got loose and got hit by a car, but she's okay. And then you would pause again and you got to let the person digest all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You'd probably ask, where is she? Well, she's at the vet. She's going to be fine. I didn't want to call you. We start pausing when we start talking that way because
Mm-hmm.
it's important. And we know internally, we know instinctively that we have to let the person digest it. So just do that when you're speaking to people out in an audience. Let them digest what you're saying.
That's fair. And speaking in front of an audience of 5, 10, 100,000 versus like a corporate setting where maybe you're giving a presentation to leadership or you're even presenting meeting notes to a sponsor on a project or something like that. It's a different audience type. You have that something in similarity where you're working for the same company or you're on the same project. But how does those differ in terms of tactics? Because it's not a full drawn out presentation. I know for me, for example, when I was working in corporate, if you pause too long, people want to jump in and say something, and you're like, well, I'm still in the middle of something, but you want to do that pause and, for effect. But sometimes that backfires on you. How would you recommend talking on a meeting in a corporate setting?
It's very similar. Communicating on a conscious and unconscious level is very similar, whether it's one person across a desk, 10 people in a conference room, or 1,000 people in an auditorium. Certain things change, obviously. Your mannerisms have to be larger if it's 1,000 people in an auditorium. And those things, though they change in actual effect, they're still the same thing. Communication is communication. Pausing where people might jump in, well, maybe you're pausing too long or people don't understand why you're pausing. Like if you're up, think of a comedian. when a comedian's up on stage and they pause, that's usually for effect. And
Mhm.
that's when I think of a comedian I like, Ron White, when he's always up there with a bottle of scotch and a glass of scotch on a stool. He knows, just like most excellent comedians know, that this joke takes a few seconds to settle in. So I have to pause and let that happen. And that's when he'll pause and grab a drink of his scotch, or I'm going to let the laughter play out. And he pauses and grabs his scotch. And that's one of the things we forget as speakers, is to let stuff play out. You can teach people very quickly not to think, or not to, in a comedian's case, applaud, by cutting them off.
Mm.
So if I said, Sammy, hey, think of this. Think about when you're standing in front of an audience and you get nervous. What does that feel like? And you're starting to imagine that in your head. And as soon as you start, I say, and another thing I want you to do,
Mm.
well, you're going to stop thinking right there. I just taught you I'm not going to give you time. That pausing and using pausing effectively is one of the greatest things, the greatest tools you can have in speaking, is literally not speaking.
It seems very counterintuitive.
Especially when your nerves are going like a roulette wheel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's similar to like being a great listener or being a great communicator is being a great listener, meaning not talking at all. It's like, doesn't make sense, but it does because you're trying to build that, I guess, camaraderie, or trying to build that connection with the audience or the person that you're talking to.
Yeah, what we're doing is just what you're saying. We're just building that connection, and there are ways to do that. Asking questions, saying, write this down, think about this, all those things that you could list of literally connecting with people. A story will bring them. If you say, come back to 1969, come with me back to 1969, you know where their heads are going to go? Back to
Space.
1969. That's a real good thing to do. Now, if you weren't born in 1969 or not old enough to remember what happened in 1969, that's where the story and building the story up comes in, but they'll mentally go with you. So when you interact with people, you have to remember that's what you're doing. See, most of us strive for perfection when we're speaking. And there's no such thing as perfection, but that's what we strive for, when we should be striving for connection. That's the ultimate. If you can connect with an audience, they are golden. And I don't want to say you're golden, because truthfully, I don't care. I don't care about me when I'm speaking. I don't care about you when you're speaking. I care about the audience. Are they going to get what they want and what they need? That's all that matters. The audience is what matters, not us. And for those listeners, if you're nervous when you speak, do yourself a favor. Quit thinking about you. And that's natural. What if they see if I'm nervous? What if I screw up? What if I forget what I'm going to say? What if they don't like me? And it's all I, me. And that's a lot of weight to carry on our shoulders, as opposed to I am lucky enough, I'm fortunate enough to be here to share information or motivate people or inspire people, whatever it might be for that occasion. And it's all about them. What are they going to get out of it? How is this going to serve them, influence their lives, help them? That's what matters. So yeah, do we think about us? Yes, we're going to. I understand that. Should we be thinking about us? No, it's all about the audience.
And that's why it's imperative that you were mentioning earlier, I imagine, to find or talk to the person who set up the event to make sure that you know one thing about the audience that they want to gain from, so you can make sure to hit on that point.
Exactly. Why are they there? What's the situation, the challenge, the problem, the opportunity, the occasion? I call it the scoop. What's the scoop? Why are they there?
Mhm.
What do they want and need to know? Not just what they need to know. What do they want to know as well? You have to have a mix of that. How are you going to accomplish that? What's going to be your point? Your point isn't a topic. Your point isn't lower taxes. That's not a point. A point would be, I believe we can lower taxes and still provide greater service to our constituents. That's a
Right.
point. So what's your point? And now how do you speak to that point? Most importantly, well, right up there anyway, how do you want your audience to feel? Because if I want my audience to feel uh, kind of just joyful, well, then I have to be joyful. I can't present in a very stiff corporate appearance if I want my audience, corporate or otherwise, to be joyful, to be inspired, to let's go get them. Then I have to be let's go get them. And in the same way, if you're coming out to do a very sad eulogy, you can't be laughing. Everybody goes, well, no, of course not. Anybody knows that. Well, that's on every occasion. And truthfully, at my mother's eulogy, which I did, I came out laughing, and it wasn't a surprise that my mom passed away, and she was in her 70s, and also it wasn't a bad occasion as far as I was concerned. And my mom and I always had a happy-go-lucky kind of funny relationship, so that was the eulogy. So how do you want to make the people feel? That makes a difference.
Interesting. Is that related to your, you have this term called showing up and throwing up, and I'm curious, I wanted to ask you what that means. Is that like being in the zone when you're there, or throwing up, like getting your nerves out, similar to how some of the star athletes do before a big game?
No, showing up and throwing up is when people don't prepare and they just show up, they wing it. And they say, I know my job. I'm going to speak about business, and I know my job, and I know the company, and I know all this stuff, and I've got the guts to get up in front of everybody. So I'm going to just walk up there and vomit information all over them. Am I going to take into account the unconscious interaction between us? No. Am I going to take engagement into consideration? No. I'm just going to show up and, like I said, vomit, throw up that information on them. And as far as I know, most people don't like to be thrown up upon. So that's not good. It's not about having the guts to talk. We've all been speaking since we were 16 months old, but we've all been singing since we were about 24 months old. And how many of us can make a living by singing? So it's not just having the ability to talk and vomit information on people. It's finding the way to communicate with them. And that's a completely different subject. Just like running a 100-meter dash is a completely different subject than jogging. They're both running. And most of us can go out and jog, but few of us can do a 100-meter dash in a way that we could survive and make a living by it.
Right.
So
I like that analogy.
That's how you have to look at stuff. And Sammy, the Japanese have a word. When you have the guts to get up in front of people and you know what you want to say, you know the words, the Japanese have a word for it, one singular word. Do you know what that word is?
I do.
You've heard it. All right. That word is karaoke.
Oh.
When you have the guts to get up in front of people and you know the words and you get up there and do it, that's karaoke. How good is karaoke 99% of the time?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Unless your audience has had 3 beers and a shot, you're not good. So when you're speaking to people in a corporate or other situation and you're up there speaking, unless your audience has had 3 beers and a shot, prepare to connect with them. Not just get up there and speak, not to just show up and throw up.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I'm replaying some of the karaoke nights that I've had in my past, and yeah, they were not good as much as I would like to think I am good at it.
And that's half the fun, right? How bad people are.
Exactly.
You don't want that. And truthfully, that brings us to this point. Most people do not want you to fail. People do not want speakers to fail. And for those who do, well, you don't want to please them anyway. They're just off in their own little world. But think about it. Even a college student on day one of a semester walks into a class and the professor walks up to the front of the room. No college student in that class is saying, God, I hope this professor sucks. I hope he's monotone. I hope he's boring. I hope he doesn't know how to connect with us as younger people. And that's how I want to spend the next 3 months. No, you're going in saying, man, I hope she's awesome. I hope she knows how to connect with us. conveys her message well. I hope this is exciting.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And how has your speaking, passed? And I'm sure you still do some now. Obviously, with COVID, it's maybe a little bit harder. But how has that helped you transition into coaching? And why did you decide to help people?
I used to speak a great deal. I've spoken in 7 countries and the 48 contiguous states in the US numerous times in each state. And when I finally decide to stop, for the most part, I still speak, but it has to be a special occasion or something fairly easy. Easy meaning local, or pop on Zoom and pop off. When I really stopped speaking, it was like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Prior to that time, I had younger people especially come up to me and say, hey, how did you do that? Or why did you do this when you were speaking? I was watching you. Why are you doing that? And these are other speakers. And I
Mhm.
would say, hey, well, this is why, and try to help them. So when I was saying, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? My wife said to me, seems to me the natural thing is to help others do the same. And that's what I started doing. That was about 17 years ago. And that grew and grew and grew. And that's how I make my living. And it's a great way to make a living. I love helping people. And that's how that came to be. I'd like to say there was an exciting way, but no, it's just, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah, I mean, it's good introspective to be able to go from one career to the next, even though it's a similar vein. But like you said, it's 100-meter dash versus, a marathon, two
Right.
totally different types of runners.
Exactly. So, and look at many athletes when they have to retire because they're just too old or other reason, injuries or whatever, many of them go into coaching. Some can coach well, some can't.
Mhm.
It depends. So I've been fortunate. I've been extremely fortunate.
Awesome. What is the main thing you do when you're trying to find, the next client, or a client comes to you and says like, I have problem public speaking, right? I don't know how to start, or I don't know how to connect with an audience. I don't know how to get an engagement, etc. Where's the first couple of things that you point on? Is it narrowing down the opening and the conclusion? Is it getting their confidence right?
It I have a method I use that works in most instances. I'll vary it sometimes, but most instances it works out well. And I call it the AMPed framework. AMPed stands for audience, message, presentation, and delivery. And those are the 4 things we're going to go over. Who's in your audience? Like I said, you have to know why the audience is there and how you're going to connect with them. The message is really the point you're going to make to help them. The presentation is just that. Then you start working on the opening. What I call the benefit statement comes after that. The talking points, any transitions, and then the conclusion. And after that, it's working on the delivery.
So
So it's taking all of those into consideration because you really can't leave one out. People say, well, I just want to work on the delivery. Like, great. We can work on your delivery. Let me see how good you are at developing and crafting a message, though, because you can
Mhm.
deliver tremendously well, but not resonate with people because the message isn't developed.
Interesting. Is that the order you should follow when you're prepping for a speech as well, or is it kind of depending on, should you get your message first and then figure out how to tailor it to your audience?
Well, I'll answer that this way. If you're going to make dinner tonight, you have nothing in the refrigerator or the cupboard, and you say, all right, I have to go shopping. You have to know what you want to make before you can stop buying the ingredients, right?
Hmm.
Same thing. You have to know the audience before you can start developing a presentation for them.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, there's a quote out there that goes something like, not knowing who your audience is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. And what are the odds it's going to resonate with that other person or people? You got to know who they are before you start speaking with them. You and I, before we started recording the podcast, when we were chatting, I said, I listened to some of your episodes. And I have to do that because I want to know who your audience is.
Mhm.
I also wanted to hear you, of course, and everything else, but I wanted to make sure I knew who I was talking to, not just you, but your audience.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's a part of the preparation as well to make sure that you're not showing up and throwing up, right?
Yep, exactly. Anything in life, we start with the end, not anything. Most things in life, we start in the end in mind. You pull out of your driveway, before you know whether to turn left or right, you have to know where you're going.
Right.
Unless you're just going out for a joyride. But if you're going out to a store or a friend's house or whatever, you have to know where you're going before you know where to point the car.
Yeah.
If
I
you're
like
going
that.
on vacation, before you can buy the tickets, you got to know where you're going.
Yeah. I like the idea with the ingredients. Definitely puts the into perspective because I was always more on the messaging standpoint. If I can get the message down, then you customize it based on whoever you're talking to. But it makes more sense with your ingredients analogy to build it out that way. So, Peter, I'd like to ask all my guests before we wrap on how they got started, how they, in terms of what motivated them. Is it a podcast? Is it a book? I know you mentioned Dale Carnegie in his course, but is there anything else that you'd like to share that helped you on your journey or things that you recommend for our audience as well?
Mentors, get mentors, whether it's public speaking, whether it's life, whether it's business, get people who've been there and done it, who are willing to help you. Mentors mean a lot. They've meant the most to me. I work with coaches still. I'm 63 years old. I still work with coaches. Heck, a financial advisor is a coach, but I still work with coaches. I work with a business coach. We meet every week, every month, and are in contact in between that. My wife is my financial coach. She's an accountant. She's also my best friend, but she's a coach to me. I take her advice on that. I joke that there was a reason I asked her to marry me because one, she was good looking, and two, she was an accountant. And I needed someone to help me with the accounting. So get people to help you. And again, I'm shy and introverted, still am to this day, but that just makes life so much easier. I wish I had done it sooner.
Yeah, agreed. I mentioned mentors on a previous episode 22 that it's just been the most important thing in my life, and everybody should try to find one and help them out, and they can help you out, and you know makes life progress a lot better because like I said, they've experienced a lot of things that you haven't, just from your age or just from your experiences. Now there's always more that you can learn from others. And where
And
can they?
mentor,
Yeah.
and mentor others.
Yeah,
Best way to learn is to teach. So mentor others as well.
for sure. Well, where can they find you if they want some of your mentorship and coaching?
Easiest way is the website, which is petergeorgepublicspeaking.com.
Nice.
They can also contact me on LinkedIn, and it's Peter George Public Speaking. Everything is Peter George Public Speaking.
Okay. Makes nice and sense, direct to the point.
Yeah,
Um,
very literal.
I've heard there's a book coming. Are
Yes,
we gonna
there is.
get a little bit of a teaser on that one?
Yeah, it's about, no surprise, public speaking. And it's
Mhm.
really following that AMPed framework: audience, message, presentation, and delivery. It follows that framework and takes you step by step through it. And it's really in depth. And I'll probably pare it back a little so it's not too in depth, but it's extremely in depth. My goal is to have my side, the writing, done by the end of October, which means I would target January, sometime in January, for a release. I used to own a publishing company a lifetime ago.
Nice.
I started a publishing company, grew that, and sold it in 2005. And so I know what goes into this, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's probably why I put it on the back burner for so long. And I can't wait for it to come out. As a matter of fact, that's what I was working on right before we started this podcast, this episode. And as soon as I get off, I'll be right back at it. And that'll be coming out, like I said, probably in January. And if you want to help yourselves, it would be a great way to do it. It's an inexpensive way to do it. Like I said before, there are so many different levels money-wise, from nothing, Toastmasters, to books, online classes, and coaches. Don't let the fear, and not the fear is so little of my business, but don't let not becoming a better public speaker hold you back from accomplishing things in your life that you'd like to accomplish.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that everybody needs to memorize, if you will, and commit to memory. That it affects all other careers. So you might as well get pretty good at it, and so that you can not hold yourself back in whatever else you want to do.
You'd
I
be,
will
su-
definitely pre-order your book for sure, because I wanna continue my journey and get better at it as well. So I think some of the tips that you've given me here, and and I'm sure you put some gems in the book as well that I can learn from.
yeah, I thank you for that. And what I'll do is when I finish my side, which is before it goes for editing and the like, which should be the end of October, as soon as I finish my side, I'll start taking pre-orders. And I'm looking forward to it. It's been a long
Yeah.
time since I've written a book, and I'm looking forward to finishing.
Yeah, I'm sure that processes a lot. We can have another podcast on if you're welcome to join whenever the book starts coming out. I'd love to have you on again.
Oh, I would enjoy that.
I appreciate it, Peter. Thank you for your time today, man.
Thank you, Sammy. Be well.